Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for joining us today for Global Leaders Local Coffee. I have Uldis. Uldis, I'm going to try and pronounce the last name, and you tell me if I get it right.
All right,
Teraudkalns?
that's close.
Close.
Teraudkalns, yes,
Teraudkalns. Great.
yes.
From Globitex joining us today. And why don't you tell a little bit of the audience? First, are you a coffee drinker, right? On Global Leaders Local Coffee, usually we have coffee drinkers, occasionally a tea drinker. Are you a coffee drinker?
Yeah, it was funny when I was invited. That's I wanted to talk, but I'm not a coffee drinker at all. Almost. I mean, a gun to my head, I would probably drink it, but normally I'm a Coca-Cola guy. So
Coca-Cola guy,
yeah,
and full caffeine Coca-Cola. How many a day do you do?
yeah. Well, usually like two, I guess. Try to keep it at one. It's been a bit of an addiction over the years, so I try to keep it a bit down. But yeah, today is I guess number three already. So, but for me, it's already 4:30 p.m. Not in the a.m. So it's not so crazy.
For sure. Well, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about Globitex and what you guys do, what makes you guys special?
All right. So Globitex is a fusion of a crypto and a fintech business. So our main business actually currently is our daughter company NextPay, an e-money wallet providing euro banking. Behind me, you can see the euro wallet poster. So what we do, we enable crypto businesses to provide the crucial infrastructure that they need to provide retail customers the ability to buy Bitcoin, because at the end of the day there's a lot of projects out there, but the whole industry is basically relying on more people buying Bitcoin.
For sure. And if I read a bit, you guys also operate, or that entity operates out of Lithuania and the regulatory environment there. Is that right?
That is true. I myself currently sitting in Riga, Latvia, the neighbor country of Lithuania, but our license is there, and half our team is in Lithuania, and Lithuania has done a great job in the fintech push they did a couple of years ago.
For
Not
sure.
only making the legal kind of background, but also the actual practical tools to help fintech strive. And the biggest among them is that the central bank, the regulator itself, banks the fintechs directly, so they don't need to go out to commercial banks and beg for mercy. They can, yeah. So
they've done a great job, especially with Brexit and everything, really creating an open environment and a really modern
yes.
environment for fintechs.
Yeah, timing is great with Brexit. I mean, there's a big line of applicants, and we managed to do it before it was cool.
That's great. Now it's a big push for talent in that region. So it's, it's great growth. Well, I know a lot of people, some people are very polarized still on crypto. Some people are like huge believers. Other people are waiting for that kind of huge shift or light bulb moment. Maybe you can help the audience understand a little bit of, what you think's happening right now in crypto. You have companies using it in different ways, some in more speculatory ways, some in more money movement ways, stored value. So maybe you can help the audience kind of give them a perspective of, what is the inside view you have on kind of the crypto industry and where it's going.
Yeah. So a lot of the action back in 2017 was a huge speculative push, I would say. A lot of people fearing of missing out, and drove the price, way above where it should have been back in the day in terms of adoption. And the time before that was even kind of very early days. I myself bought my first Bitcoin in like 2015, so quite late to the game still, but that was kind of the silent period. I mean, this year is, first of all, hypothesis testing, right? The world is, 2020 going to, and then the hypothesis testing is whether Bitcoin is a safe haven, whether it is not correlated with the assets. The theory was just smashed in March when Bitcoin fell like 50%, but now has bounced back and gone over. And I mean, I think the biggest news coming out this year is like the big players, really some of the hedge fund managers making allocations to Bitcoin. I think the biggest news by far to me was a couple of weeks ago this one U.S. listed company. I don't remember exactly the name, but allocated like 250 million of its cash to Bitcoin, wow. saying that it's actually better than keeping it in dollars to kind of ensure the longevity of their treasury. So I mean, if you know like non-financial motivation companies do it just to kind of manage their cash, I think it's already a big step. So in broad terms, I think we are in a kind of a more kind of professional adoption, not such a huge retail driven bubble, but a lot more of the professional, the institutional, the corporate types. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday or today's news, Fidelity filing for a Bitcoin fund. So I mean, it's been a great year so far. I think even with the 50% crash. So at least my company, we were working extra hard during the first months of COVID, when everything was locked down, everyone was working from home, and there was a big push actually from our customers and their customers, because we're mostly serving businesses, and they were just we were almost overwhelmed with activity. So
I think that's been it in the industry, right? I think even with the pandemic, crypto's been one of those things where I think you've seen a bit of a, you've heard a lot about a surge, right? Or people starting to use technology they may not have used before, or starting to put more value in it. I think in these uncertain times, I guess last business or crypto related question, talk a little bit about regulation. Where do you see regulation going in the space? What gaps still exist? What have to be closed? What could help companies move faster without restricting people?
Well, first of all, I mean, there needs to be some clarity, right? So either you say that it's not regulated and then don't go after the companies that try to do something, or if you do regulate it, or if you are going to have some requirements, then make them clear. And in the EU, where we operate primarily, it's quite clear on the EU level what countries should do, but it's kind of only dealing with the AML side of regulation. Like in Estonia, I think was among the first ones to adopt it. Now Lithuania has adopted, many countries, the UK. These rules that you should have a money laundering reporting officer, you should have transaction monitoring, you should submit suspicious activity reports. All things nice. Nothing to do with regulation of financial services, right? There's still, exchanges are free to operate however they want in terms of, how they maintain the integrity of the markets. There's no investor protection. There's no these kind of things. So the first layer, I think, in terms of AML is being covered quite well, at least here in Europe. And then countries, of course, have different levels of success. Sure. Implementing it, but I think a second wave is coming when people actually do admit that it is crypto, but I mean at the end of the day it's still financial services.
For sure. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, I think more clarity always helps. And I think the other thing I've seen in regulation, just in fintech regulation in general, has been some scaling of it, right? Meaning, how do you create regulation that doesn't make it easier for the bigger companies to adapt and to comply, and the smaller companies not to, right? So I think you have to look at things, which many governments have done really well, and say, how do you scale that regulation as you so that it scales with different sizes of businesses as well, which I think's critical. Well, great. Well, transitioning to some more maybe personal questions. We like to kind of have a balance of work and personal here. So if you look back, I always like to ask leaders, people who are running companies and businesses, do you ever look back in your childhood and say, geez, I'm not surprised, or I am surprised as to what I'm actually doing now? Do you look back and see aspects of your childhood that make sense now when you look at kind of the career you're in and what you're doing?
Not at all. No.
Not at all.
No. I mean, I think there's even a video of me being interviewed in like first or second grade. So what are you going to do when you grow up? And I said, I'm going to be a cello player for the national orchestra. Yeah, so that didn't work out.
Did you play the cello? Did you ever play the cello?
I did when I was a kid. I went to music school and I did for a couple of years. But if I have to make any connections with financial services, then it has to be me always lending money to my big brother. So when I was a kid, I always had some savings and he never had, and so I was always lending him money. So
there you go. So
maybe that's a connection to what I'm doing today.
You're in financial services at a young age, I guess, then, right?
Yeah. I didn't charge any interest though. I mean, he's 5 years older. I think he had it wasn't really it wasn't a request, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds like he had a good deal. It sounds like he has a good deal. So when you think about COVID, I mean, I'm sure you and the team, right? You've obviously been dealing with kind of a changing world, a more digital world. I guess in your personal life and how you're managing the team, like, is there something you long for in the old world that we were in, that you miss now that we're kind of in more of this global pandemic and we've kind of have this new normal?
Yeah, well, I haven't almost met any of my clients for a few months. I mean, wow. There's a couple in the Baltics that we have that I have met, but all these industry events, which felt like a nuisance sometimes to go there and to network and etc. Now I do miss it. I don't believe really in these virtual conferences too much in terms of communicating with people. Obviously, there's some content which is always interesting, but I think most people go to such events to actually meet people and interact and build some kind of relationships. And that, I think is the most painful in terms of these COVID restrictions. Yeah. There's a couple events coming up actually, which we're lined up in Moscow and in Paris in the fall. I am not sure how that's going to pan out because I mean things are not getting better in most places. So I mean, obviously the shock is over. So people realize that there are ways how we can live with this and work with this, and especially in the Baltics has been quite successful so far how we have managed these things, but in these bigger cities and I don't really want to go on a plane anytime soon. I don't know. I don't. It might not be very rational, but it feels like not the right thing to do at this point. So.
Well, yeah, I think everyone's looking for ways to replicate the the personal connections you have. Digital doesn't get there, but at the same time, I think there will be less travel. There will be people questioning, is this trip really important? I think at least over the next 6 or 9 months. Well, hey, last question for me. I know there's a lot of people in the audience that that are either leading companies, they're leading large teams, that are always interested in leadership ideas, strategies. When you think back of kind of your leadership style and what you think is kind of really important if you're looking to run a company, lead a team, any advice you have for those folks?
Well, this year kind of forces us to be flexible, but in general, kind of rational flexibility, right? Because I mean, I think the name of the game this year is remote, full remote, partial remote. How should we work? And then there's been companies coming out saying, oh, we're going to go full remote, or default remote, and etc. That's all nice, but I think that you should kind of first of all be flexible to give options to your people depending on different circumstances. Second is be also kind of rational and smart about it. Don't go sending everyone away from the office at the first chance and then realize that the team doesn't click anymore. And so we are here kind of trying this partial remote. I'm actually coming to the office pretty much every day, as I prefer the work environment as compared to my bedroom. So I would say, maintain rational flexibility in these turbulent times. I think it's a very important.
It's great. It's great advice. I may steal that one. Flexibility may be the most used word I've had in 2020 when talking to my team, but rational flexibility I like even better. Well, appreciate all this. You spending time with us here on Global Leaders Local Coffee. Really nice to meet you. I look forward to staying in touch. Hopefully, sharing a coffee at some point when travel resumes.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye.